5 seconds. That's how long it took for a millionaire's perfect wedding to turn into his worst nightmare. But those same 5 seconds also saved his life. And they saved hers too. See, the person who stopped this wedding wasn't a jealous ex or a rival businessman. It was a 12-year-old homeless girl with a cracked phone and a secret that would destroy a beautiful bride's perfect plan. This is the story of how the smallest person in the room became the biggest hero. And I promise you, you've never heard anything like it. Before we begin, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. You know, sometimes the smallest people carry the biggest secrets. And sometimes those secrets can change everything. This is a story about a little girl named Lily. She was only 12 years old, but life had already been rough on her. Real rough. See, Lily didn't have a home. She didn't have a warm bed or a family waiting for her at dinner time. What she had was the streets of Boston and a torn backpack with everything she owned inside. 2 years earlier, Lily's mom had died. Just like that, gone. And Lily had nobody else. No dad, no grandparents, no aunts or uncles. The state put her in a foster home, but the people there were mean. They yelled and locked her in her room. So one night, this brave little girl made a choice. She ran away. Now, I know what you're thinking. How does a 10-year-old survive on the streets? Well, Lily was smart. She found hiding places. She learned which restaurants threw out good food at the end of the night. And she found one special place where she felt safe. A place called Grace Community Church. Grace Community Church was this beautiful old stone building right in the heart of Boston. It had these tall windows with colored glass that showed pictures of angels. During the day, people would come to pray. At night, it was supposed to be empty and locked up tight. But Lily had discovered something. There was a small bathroom window in the back that didn't lock right. If you push it just the right way, it would slide open. Every night, Lily would squeeze through that window, drop down into the bathroom, and tiptoe into the main church. She'd curl up behind the last row of wooden benches with a thin blanket. She kept hidden there. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't warm, but it was safe. And for a homeless kid, safe was everything. Now here's where the story really begins. About a year ago, Lily had been standing in line at a soup kitchen, waiting for free food. A volunteer was handing out sandwiches and talking about something called the Bennett Foundation. This food is free because of Mr. David Bennett, the volunteer said. He started this foundation to help people who have nothing. He believes everyone deserves a chance. Lily got her sandwich that day. Ham and cheese on wheat bread. The best thing she'd eaten in weeks. And she never forgot that name. David Bennett. He was one of the good ones. David Bennett was 41 years old and a self-made millionaire. He owned hotels and restaurants all across Boston. His picture was in magazines. People interviewed him on TV. But David wasn't just rich. He was kind. 10 years ago, after his wife died in a terrible accident, David started his foundation to help people who had nobody. He gave food to hungry families. He paid for kids to go to school. He built shelters for homeless people. You see, David understood struggle. Before he was rich, he'd been poor too. His mama had raised him alone, working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. So when he made his money, he decided to give back. And now, David was getting married again. His bride-to-be was a woman named Victoria Sterling. She was 35, beautiful, from a wealthy family. Perfect hair, perfect clothes, perfect smile. Everyone said they made the perfect couple. When they got engaged 6 months ago, the newspaper called David the city's most eligible bachelor finally finding love again. But here's the thing about perfect. Sometimes perfect is just a mask hiding something ugly underneath. Nobody knew the real Victoria. Nobody except Lily. It happened 2 weeks before the wedding. Lily was sleeping in her usual spot behind the back bench when she heard voices. Her eyes snapped open. Someone was inside the church. Inside the sacristy, the small room at the front where the priest kept his robes. Lily stayed completely still and listened. She learned on the streets that staying quiet could keep you alive. "Are you sure this will work?" a man's voice asked. "Of course it will work," a woman answered. Her voice was smooth and cold. David trusts me completely. The poor fool is so in love, he can't see what's right in front of him. Lily's heart started pounding. This was bad. She could feel it. What happens after the wedding? Another voice asked. After the wedding, everything changes, the woman said. Once David signs the papers as my husband, half of everything he owns becomes mine automatically. His hotels, his restaurants, everything. But I'm not stopping there. I'll have him sign a power of attorney during our honeymoon. He'll think it's just normal married couple paperwork. But what it really does is give me control over all his money and businesses. What about the Bennett Foundation? The first man asked. Especially the foundation, the woman said, and Lily could hear her smiling. Do you know how much money flows through that charity every year? Millions. And once I have control, I can take it all. David built an empire, and he's about to hand me the keys. Lily felt sick. This woman was going to destroy David Bennett, the man who helped hungry people, the man who gave homeless kids like her a chance. The wedding is in 2 weeks, the woman continued. Saturday, June 15th at 3 o'clock, right here at Grace Community Church. And then the woman said her name, Victoria Sterling. Lily's whole body went cold. Victoria was David's fiancée, the woman he loved, the woman he was going to marry, and she was planning to destroy him. For the next week, Lily listened every night. Victoria came back with her lawyer and a business partner, planning everything. And every night, Lily's anger grew stronger. Finally, she made a decision. She had to stop this wedding, even if it meant risking everything. Lily had an old cell phone she'd found in a trash can months ago. The screen was cracked and the battery barely worked, but it could record audio, and that was all she needed. On the 4th night of meetings, Lily did something incredibly brave. When she heard Victoria and her partners talking in the sacristy, she crept out from her hiding spot. Her heart was beating so hard she thought it would explode. She lay down on the cold floor near the sacristy door and slid her phone right up to the gap at the bottom. Her hands shook as she pressed the record button. Let's go over the timeline one more time. Victoria's voice came through clearly. The wedding is this Saturday. We'll sign the marriage certificate right after the ceremony. That makes the property transfer legal. And the power of attorney? Another voice asked. I'll bring it to the honeymoon hotel. Victoria's lawyer said. Tell David it's just standard paperwork for married couples. Hide the power of attorney in the middle. He'll sign without reading. He trusts you. Perfect, Victoria said. By the time he realizes what happened, I'll control everything. The hotels, the restaurants, and especially that precious foundation of his. All that money wasted on poor people. I'll put it to much better use. What if he fights back? Someone asked nervously. Victoria laughed. It was not a kind laugh. With what? Once I have the power of attorney, I can freeze his accounts. I can lock him out of his own companies. And if he tries to take me to court, it'll take years. By then, I'll have moved the money somewhere safe. David Bennett will be left with nothing. Lily's eyes filled with tears as she listened. This was even worse than she thought. He actually thinks I love him, Victoria said mockingly. He thinks I'm this sweet, caring woman who shares his values. What a joke. I've been planning this since the day I met him. Rich, lonely widower with hero complex. Easy target. The rage Lily felt in that moment was like fire in her chest. I went to every boring charity event, Victoria continued. I smiled at every dirty homeless person. I pretended to care about his dead wife and his sad backstory. All of it was worth it for this payoff. When the meeting finally ended, Lily grabbed her phone and scrambled back to her hiding spot. She waited until everyone left, her heart racing the whole time. Then she pressed play. Victoria's voice came through the speaker, clear as day, confessing everything. Lily had her proof. But now what? She couldn't go to the police. They wouldn't believe a homeless kid. She couldn't email David because she didn't have his contact information. But she knew where he would be on Saturday. At Grace Community Church, getting married. Lily realized what she had to do. She would have to stop the wedding herself. Walk right up to David Bennett in front of all those rich people and make him listen. The thought terrified her. What if security threw her out? What if David didn't believe her? What if Victoria saw her first? But Lily knew she had no choice. David had helped her when she needed it. Now it was her turn to help him. The next few days felt like forever. Lily watched the church carefully as workers came and went, setting up flowers and decorations. She saw Victoria arrive twice, both times dressed in expensive clothes, smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. Once, Lily saw David himself. He stepped out of a shiny black car, tall and handsome in a nice suit. When he held the door open for an elderly woman carrying groceries, Lily knew for certain she was doing the right thing. This man didn't deserve what Victoria was planning. Friday night, the night before the wedding, Lily barely slept. She kept checking her phone to make sure the recording was still there. She practiced what she would say. "Mr. Bennett, please listen. Your fiancé is trying to trick you. I have proof." Would he listen? Would anyone? Saturday morning came with bright sunshine, the kind of perfect day people dream about for weddings. Lily washed her face in the church bathroom and tried to comb her tangled hair with her fingers. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw a skinny girl with scared eyes and clothes that didn't fit right. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. "You have to." By noon, the guests started arriving. Expensive cars pulled up, women in fancy dresses and big hats, men in suits that probably cost more than Lily had seen in her whole life. Lily watched from across the street, hidden behind a parked van. Her courage was fading fast. These people lived in a different world. They would look at her and see trash. But then she remembered Victoria's voice on the recording. All that money wasted on poor people. Victoria wanted to destroy the foundation that fed hungry children. She wanted to take away the only good thing Lily had ever known. That anger gave Lily strength. At 2:30, a long white limousine pulled up. Victoria stepped out in a wedding dress that sparkled in the sunlight. She looked like a princess. She waved at photographers and smiled her perfect smile. Nobody looking at her would ever guess what kind of person she really was. 10 minutes later, David arrived. He looked nervous but happy. He straightened his tie and took a deep breath. He had no idea his life was about to be destroyed, unless Lily stopped it. She checked her phone one more time. The recording was ready. The church bells began to ring. 3 o'clock. The wedding was starting. Lily took a deep breath, stepped out from behind the van, and walked toward the church. It was time. Security guards stood at the church entrance. Big men in black suits with serious faces. They were there to keep out people who didn't belong. People like Lily. She walked toward them, her torn sneakers making soft sounds on the sidewalk. Every step fell harder than the last. "Keep moving, kid," one guard said when he saw her. "This is a private event." "I need to talk to Mr. Bennett," Lily said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "It's important." The guard laughed. "Yeah, I'm sure it is. Get out of here before I call the cops." "Please," Lily begged. "Just 5 minutes." "I said move." The guard took a step toward her. Fear shot through Lily's body. For a moment, she almost ran. But then she thought about David's kind face. She thought about all the people the Bennett Foundation had helped. She couldn't give up. Not now. Inside the church, she could hear music starting. The wedding was beginning. She was running out of time. Lily made a decision. She darted left, trying to run around the guard and up the stairs. On the streets, she'd learned to be fast. But the guard was faster. His hand grabbed the back of her shirt and yanked her backward. "Let me go," Lily cried. "You don't understand. She's going to steal everything." "Should I call the police?" the other guard asked. "No, please." Lily was crying now. "Just let me talk to him. It's a trap." Her shouting attracted attention. Guests outside turned to look. They whispered and pointed. And then, through the open church doors, Lily saw him. David Bennett was standing at the altar next to the priest, waiting for his bride. The commotion outside caught his attention. He turned his head and looked toward the entrance. Their eyes met. For just a moment, David looked at the skinny, crying girl being held by a security guard. He saw someone who needed help. And because David Bennett had spent 10 years helping people who needed it, he didn't look away. He held up his hand and started walking down the aisle toward the entrance. "Mr. Bennett, sorry about this." One guard called. "We're handling it." But David ignored him. He walked right up to Lily and looked down at her with kind, curious eyes. "What's going on?" he asked gently. This was it. Her only chance. "Don't marry her," Lily blurted out. The words came fast and desperate. "Please, Mr. Bennett, don't marry Victoria Sterling. It's a trap. She doesn't love you. She just wants your money. She's going to steal everything." David's eyebrows went up. Behind him, guests were craning their necks to watch. The music had stopped. "That's quite an accusation," David said slowly. "Who are you? How do you know about—" "I've been sleeping in the church," Lily interrupted. "At night, I heard them talking. Victoria and her lawyer and some business guy. They've been planning this for weeks. She's going to make you sign papers that give her control of everything. Your hotels, your restaurants, the foundation, everything." Something flickered in David's eyes. "Doubt, maybe, or worry. I have proof," Lily said, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. "I recorded them. You can hear everything. Please, just listen. 5 seconds. That's all I'm asking." The security guard reached for the phone. "Sir, you don't have to—" "Wait," David said. He looked at Lily for a long moment. "You're serious, aren't you?" "I know what I heard," Lily said firmly. "And I know who you are. Your foundation helped me last year. I got food and school supplies. You help people like me. So now I'm trying to help you." David's expression softened. He nodded slowly. "Let me hear it." Lily's hand shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. She found the recording and pressed play. For a moment, there was only static. Lily's heart sank. What if it hadn't worked? But then Victoria's voice came through, clear and sharp. "David trusts me completely. The poor fool is so in love, he can't see what's right in front of him." David's face went pale. The lawyer's voice followed. "Once David signs the papers as your husband, half of everything becomes yours automatically." David's hand started shaking. Victoria again mocking. "He actually thinks I love him. Rich, lonely widower with a hero complex. Easy target." More voices poured out. The power of attorney plan. Freezing his accounts. And then the worst part. "I pretended to care about his dead wife and his sad backstory. All of it was worth it for this payoff." The recording ended. Silence fell over the church entrance. Everyone who had gathered stood frozen, mouths open in shock. David's face had gone from pale to gray. His hands were clenched into fists. "When did you record this?" he asked quietly. "For days ago," Lily whispered. "Thursday night." David nodded slowly. He looked up at the church where his bride was waiting, where 200 guests sat in the pews, where the priest stood confused about why the groom had disappeared. Then he looked back at Lily. For a moment, she saw pain in his eyes. Betrayal and anger mixed together. But then his expression hardened. "I'm going to stop this wedding," he said firmly. "Wait here." He turned and walked back into the church. Lily stood at the entrance, her heart pounding, as David strode down the aisle. Every head turned to follow him. The whispers grew loud. When he reached the altar where Victoria stood in her beautiful white dress, he just looked at her, really looked at her. "David," she said sweetly, "what's wrong?" David didn't answer. He turned to face the crowd. "There's been a situation," he said. His voice echoed through the church. "Something I just learned. Something that changes everything." Victoria's face went pale. "David, what are you talking about?" "The wedding is canceled," David said. The church erupted in chaos. David pulled out his phone and played the recording for everyone to hear. Victoria's voice filled the church, confessing everything. Victoria tried to deny it. She tried to claim it was fake. But her lawyer panicked and tried to run. Security caught him at the door. The fraudulent documents were found in his briefcase. The police were called. Victoria and her accomplices were arrested. And through it all, David walked back to Lily. He knelt down so they were at eye level. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You saved my life today." What will happen to me now? Lily asked nervously. David smiled gently. As of right now, you're not homeless anymore. I'm going to give you a safe place to stay. Food, school, everything a kid should have. Would that be okay? Lily stared at him, hardly believing it. Why would you help me? Because you helped me when I needed it most, David said. You gave me the truth when everyone else was lying. That's worth everything, Lily. And that's exactly what happened. David took Lily home that day. She got her own room, her own bathroom, clean clothes, 3 meals a day. She went back to school. 6 months later, David officially adopted her. The girl who had been sleeping on a cold church floor became his daughter. Victoria went to prison for 7 years. Her accomplices got prison time too. And Lily and David, they became a real family. Not because of blood or paperwork, but because they showed up for each other when it mattered most. Years later, Lily grew up and helped run the Bennett Foundation, focusing on helping homeless youth. She never forgot what it felt like to be cold and alone and scared. And when people asked her how she ended up with such an amazing life, she always told them the same thing. I was homeless and living in a church. I overheard a terrible plan. I could have stayed quiet and stayed safe. But instead, I told the truth. And that one moment of courage changed everything. She would smile and add, the best decision I ever made was stopping that wedding. Because 5 seconds later, when he heard that recording, we both got saved. The truth about family is this. It's not about blood or money or fancy weddings. It's about showing up when it matters. It's about telling the truth even when it's hard. That's what Lily and David did. They saved each other. And they lived happily, supporting each other for the rest of their lives.